Hello, 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 and welcome to day number 4 of the EDA Table Makers Club, brought to you by Project Eñye. So today I have a very special guest, and of course, guess who's calling me right now? Henry, my partner. Who, my guest Rita Bautista, knows him very well. So, which is funny. We have a very funny history, and I'm going to share that because I think it's really special, and I want everybody to know how these types of connections happen in the world. So, but before that, I want to explain what the heck we're doing here and why is this called Table Makers and what the heck is this? This is a brand new thing. So as we were ideating and thinking about the Eñye Dream Accelerator, which you may or may not be familiar with, it's a very small exclusive group of about 50 women that have all decided to create not only their own seat at the table, but their own table. A lot of times we experience a sense of not being invited into certain rooms or find that there isn't a place for us. And it's something that is not talked about enough. In some circles, it feels sometimes maybe brings up some embarrassment or shame for people that want to ascend, promote, create, but that feel like there's no place for them. And I want to recognize that there are systems and institutions that are not built for our success. It really is not just our minds, right? It is in many ways a fact. And so because I am the way that I am, I will not be deterred. I will not be stopped, right? So several years ago, I decided, and it's funny, I wouldn't have put it like this, but I decided to make my own table by creating this movie, no matter what, and then creating the community around it, which I've been working on now for 7 years. And I will tell you, it has not necessarily been the easiest thing I've done, but it has easily been the most gratifying, life-validating, unbelievable feeling-making move I've ever made in my life that has affected every area of my life. And one of those areas is meeting extraordinary Latinas that I would never have met, never in a million years, had I continued to believe the lie that it wasn't possible for me to make my own table. And so this series is about, that's okay, we're both getting calls. That's okay. No worries. Maybe that's Henry. So this series is about highlighting these women. I take you guys for granted, Rita. I take our friendship, our professional relationship for granted in the way that I kind of keep it to myself. And I feel like I can't do that anymore. Other people need to see you. Other people need to see how these relationships start and how they can grow, and know that it's available to them too. And that there's always, always, always a second chance. And it's never too late to get started. So I met Rita Bautista, who is the founder of the Latina Podcast Network and also the host of the Empowerment and All That podcast. I can't remember when I started hearing your name, but I know at some time in the last year or so, I started, not this year. I feel like, because we connected kind of at the beginning of this year, maybe like 2 years, I don't know. I started hearing your name and felt like, ooh, I like what she's talking about. I like what she's doing, right? And then at one point, that book, American Dirt, came out, and you reached out to me, and I'll never forget where I was when we had this conversation. I was actually standing outside Starbucks after I picked up my daughters from school, and I felt like I was talking to an old friend. I felt like, even though there's quite the age gap, I'd like to think I'm closer in age to Rita. I don't know how old you are, but it feels like we're peers, right? And I felt like I was talking to an old friend and like working on something, and I felt this energy of this something special that she had brought to me, and she's like, maybe we can do something. I think it was, let's do something about this. And I was like, awesome. And, a lot of people reach out to me with lots of why don't you do's and whatever. But there was something about Rita, and I just responded like literally how I would respond to an old friend. We got on the phone and I didn't want to get off. I felt like we were just like connecting on this big idea, and literally in I don't know how many hours, it was all set. We figured the whole freaking thing out. And it was a podcast episode, the first of its kind for us. We created this collaboration. And one thing I just want to say is there, to get together with a bunch of women like that under any circumstance, and I'm not going to say just women, any people that do not know each other very well beforehand is a risk, right? Mm-hmm. And you never know how it's going to turn out. And this is a testament to me trusting my gut, and also to how amazing of a human being you are, Rita. Because I knew it was, and like I said, my partner Henry was like, "Who's Rita?" I'm like, it's going to be awesome. Just trust me on this.
Now he has me on speed dial.
Now he has you on speed dial. And so that was just the beginning. We created this beautiful episode. And for anyone listening or watching, it's available. You can listen to it. It's our take on the American dirt from a bunch of Latina podcasters, all of us kind of weighing in. And it was something that we made together. And I think, to have that kind of in time and space as this thing that we made, all hands on deck, it's just a really neat thing. And so after that, Rita decided to jump in, to participate in a contest that we had for the Eñye Dream Accelerator. Well, she won the contest, no surprise. And she won a full year's membership in EDA. And over that time, I've gotten to know her. And, it's just more, the more I get to know, the more there is to know, and the more excited I am to know her, and just honored I am to support her in what she's doing in the world. So this call is about gushing about Rita, in case you haven't noticed. And, but Rita, but you've really gone through a journey this year. I would like to start at the beginning from you in your own words. How did you get the idea for Latina Podcasters? And tell us the story about the creation of it.
Yeah. Well, I just have to say that is one hell of an intro. So thank you so much, Denise. And thank you to everybody who's watching right now. I just want to tell you just a really quick motivational message. Today, I woke up with not the highest amount of energy, but when you hear all these things that you've been able to accomplish, and you don't think about them all day long, it reminds you why we do get up in the morning, and why we continue to push forward when we're doing things and creating things from the ground up, because of everything that you just said. This year has been so compacted into like one hell of a year. I'm ready for 2020 to be over. It's been one of the most monumental years of my life, but at the same time, it's also been very emotionally taxing and draining. So it's one of those things where it's like, amazingly beautiful over here, and this sucked, so I mean, even talking about the podcast episode that we all did together, which was beautifully executed by your team, by Henry, by
Matt,
by all of you guys. The production quality was so beautiful, and you really were able to capture the emotion, the feelings, the pros and cons, different perspectives of everybody who is a Latina, and the way that we all took to not just that book, American Dirt, but more or less the concept. And I feel like what sucked was the pandemic was coming. And so and it kind of got swept under, because that would have been a great, just like wave to ride. But, honestly, I think that was, when you start off the year with such a monumental piece, it's only going to set your tone for the rest of the year. And I truly believe that was probably the beginning of exposure for us. So thank you. Like, I really, really genuinely am happy that you took a chance on me.
It goes to show too that people are watching you, that you have no idea who's watching you.
Yeah.
Like, you had no idea. It wasn't like you were just a girl on the street reaching out to me like, "Oh, who's Rita?" No, I knew who you were. I mean, I knew enough to know this is good. This is someone I want to associate with and trust. And that's a big deal for me. And so, yeah, let that land, because, just, okay, keep going. I don't, it is about how fabulous you are. But
thank you. I started Empowerment and All That podcast back in 2019 after I had gone through like some years of emotional trauma, drain, therapy, XYZ. And I wanted to give back to the world. I wanted to empower the world with the messages that I'd received during that time of just like really difficult spaces. And I was like, if I can give people like an inspirational message or give them some great stories of success that others are living through, like, you know, even if it's just one person, at least I'm giving back to the world what I received when I was going through a tough time. So that was my purpose for empowerment and all that. Well, the great thing about podcasting is you learn really quickly. You need a niche topic in order for you to connect to an audience faster. The more niche, and I tell everybody this, the more niche, the better. So any way that you Google anything, that should be your topic for your podcast. It just makes it more direct and simple and easier for people to find you. Just think about podcasts as like your modern day audio Google.
Yeah, that's a good example.
Yeah. So, so from there, I wanted to connect to other people. I wanted to, just as you explained, you know, there are systems in place, unfortunately, that keep people out. Sometimes not because of a fault of our own, but because people are so used to status quo that they don't feel like they need to be disruptors or change makers. And so I continuously watched the charts and I was falling in love with this median, but I never saw myself reflected back in the charts, in the podcasts. And so I set out to connect with other podcasters, and I did. I met some amazing people along the way. And while I was meeting them, I was like, you know what, there's still something missing. And what part of that is their cultural piece. And I think that's something that you do so great with Eñye. Dream Accelerator is that we could have joined any accelerator. We could have, you know, gone anywhere. But the concept is there is a piece of us that is missing at times when we connect to our professional selves, when we connect to our societal selves. That cultural piece at times is missing. And that is kind of the disconnect that I think at times causes tension in ourselves when we're trying to grow or push past an idea or a norm that doesn't necessarily benefit us. So to say, I want to start a business, but I don't really know where or why or how. Sometimes it's really just because we've been taught that we shouldn't, or we can't because we are X. And I think when you eliminate that roadblock, then you give somebody an opportunity to do that. So truthfully, I started Latina Podcasters at first. It was just a community. And that's actually how we got you. Because we were.
Oh, right, that's right. Wait, yeah, we had.
La semana.
We had that moment. I forgot about that. That's hilarious. Okay, keep going.
So I started the concept. Truthfully, it was just, you know, I just want to highlight because I couldn't find anybody. And I was like, you know what? This is bull. There has to be podcasters out there. I can't be Latina Podcaster 1. Impossible, right? Like, as much as I care to believe that, it's impossible. There's too many of us. We are way too loud. We have so much to speak about. And so I started connecting to podcasters through social media. So I was like, if I use social media to market my podcast, then I did everything in reverse. Essentially, what I was doing was like, if I want people to find me, I'm going to find people the same way. So I started doing the research and I started highlighting at first one podcaster a day. And obviously, that would be exhausting.
Yes.
But then we moved the model to Pod de la Semana. And then we would have a podcaster come on and go live in the Facebook group and talk about a topic related to podcasting. And so that's how I met Denise. And the other thing that's great, and one of the things that I always tell everybody, I'm like, you know, the easiest way to connect to people, and the pandemic was absolutely fabulous for this one thing. People have humanized themselves and allow for connectivity through social media, whether it's LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube's a huge one for the Latinx community as well. But, you know, don't be afraid to reach out to people, because you exposing them and giving them light to their community does the same for you, if not better. And so now that you said that, you know, that you trusted me, I think it's really interesting because recently, especially the last couple of weeks, every time I sit down to have a meeting with somebody, they're like, oh, somebody told me about you. I've heard your name before. I don't know why. And I'm like, this is so weird. But when you are doing something or you're changing something, people start to talk about you because you're rattling, you're shaking the box, and you're reminding them that there's still opportunity and there's still momentum and still energy out there. And, you know, I'm 36 and
what?
If I had the energy of a 20-year-old, I probably would own all the podcasts by now. But
Wait, say that again. I'm going on live because we're getting hellos from people, and I want to see you doing it.
Okay. Yeah. No, I said I'm 36, and if I had the energy of a 20-year-old, geez, I'd own all the podcasts.
Oh, girl, you have so much energy. And you have wisdom now. That's better because the wisdom is why I'm going to say why people feel that thing that they just want to, they have that magnetism towards you. It's because you learned a thing or two in that tough time you talked about.
Yeah,
that you learned a thing or two. Okay, so all right, keep going. And wait, hang on. So Rosemary Roque Ruden says, "Hola, ladies, looking fabulous." Mari says, "Hola, chicas," and Diana Trout, "Hola from SoCal." What's up, ladies?
Hey.
Okay, see ya.
So just fast forward to February, whereas I went to Podfest, and at Podfest, everyone was like, this is a network, this is a network, this is a network. And I'm like, it's not a network, it's a community. I just want to connect with people. There's nothing there. I just, and they're like, no, this is a network. So I started a directory. And the directory has 60 podcasts on it now of all Latinas. So anybody who's listening, it's a free chance for you to go and find other voices of podcasters, all feminine, all Latinas, for the Latinx community, right? So like open to everyone, essentially. I'm not discriminating, right? Like I just want to put a disclaimer out there, not necessarily discrimination in a sense, but more or less a club for feminine voices. So if you're interested in joining or just adding your podcast to the directory, we have a couple of different options for you there. But if you want to be part of the podcast network and you want monetization opportunities, we have 2 membership levels as well. I'm super excited because we have a slate of 20 podcasts on the network, as Denise, Selfish, Latina, no hyphen, I'm hoping.
No hyphen. Check it out. I just got this last night. What?
No hyphen.
No hyphen. No one's ever going to know the story. One day you'll be like, I'm going to tell her to take the hyphen out. And that's a whole thing between us and whoever else we were talking about. So, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's really great about our story, right? So like I have the story of the hyphen, but you have the story of, you're like, no, you can do this. Like, you're going to start this network. I was like, what am I going to do for, Eñye Dream Accelerator? You're like, what are you talking about? The whole thing you've already started. And I'm like, oh yeah. Yep. And here I am, It's interesting. It's really interesting, but it was such a beautiful experience to start with. And yet, right when it happened, I think everything truly has, whether you believe in God or not, there's like divine timing, or the universe is really not conspiring against you, but is really opening pathways for you to really live out what you're supposed to. And I think that everything happened perfectly. Like, our first modules landed during literally the kickoff of the pandemic, when we went into full lockdown mode. And I am so beyond grateful for that, because I live by myself. And I can't imagine without my Eñye family and Latina podcasters during that time, how just uncomfortable and lonely that would have felt. And I truly felt more fulfilled, I think, than I ever have being in my house, because I was able to be part of your accelerator program and also continue to develop and grow the voices of the Latinas that are podcasting. And to me, that's, it was awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. Some people, like what you just said, like sometimes it feels like the universe is conspiring against us. I mean, hey, we have every reason in the world to believe that's true. Like lockdown. I mean, every once in a while that pops in my mind. I'm like, in 20 years, like, how will we all be talking about this time? It's so bizarre. It's like a movie. It's like something that we could hardly really be present to, what has happened this year. And coexisting at the exact same time and the universe is always conspiring for me and for you and for everyone. And this thing that you decided to do, which was create this community, became something so much bigger. And it's almost like you got sucked into and accepted the leadership role that you were meant to have. And that's how it feels sometimes, which is like arguing with arguing with people about your leadership or about how big you really can be. You know, it's like, no, it's just this. No, it's just this. Sorry, no. But they're like, no, it's a network. It's a network. You can lead thousands of people. You could change lives. But we respond to who we think we are, not who we believe we can become. And every once in a while, someone like you says, yes. And thank God, you know, there was something, I felt like there was a vacuum. I don't know, there was something that I wanted to provide for you at that time, because that's the wisdom that I have. Because, you know, when you take these big leaps, it's very lonely. It can be very lonely. And it's extremely difficult to tell someone that who hasn't experienced that level of loneliness themselves, that know it from taking a big leap.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it's just hard to describe. And like, you know, they call it the oh, there's a term, I forget what the term is, but it can get pretty bad. And for me, I'm so fortunate to have these who I call fairy godmothers who swept in for me, and I immediately knew that I could provide something for you in a similar way. But you met me halfway by winning the contest. I mean, come on. So this was a future expression of Rita that was absolutely meant to be. And it's so important to recognize that when you kind of heed the call, not to sound too woo, but she heeded a call. People were arguing with her about this, and she finally acquiesced. She finally said, okay, all right, I guess I'll figure this out, right? And I will lean into this, at this unknown space, and become the woman that it seems like I'm supposed to be next, right? So that is a power move for her in her life. It affects all the women that are a part of her network and beyond, right? But also a bunch of women that she'll never know and that she'll never meet, who are watching her or who will watch her and say, because of her, I can do this or my own version of this. And that's what freaking blows my mind, because EDA is an expression of that, because I know everybody in there thinks or believes that in some way, shape, or form about me. And I knew none of you before this. And honestly, my intention was just to make a movie, right? And what ended up happening was a bunch of people got inspired, not only to claim their Latinidad, but also to reach for the stars in their own life. And so I want to recognize that that's the power of going for your dreams. And I wish there was some less stereotypical, less corny sounding term. If anyone has any ideas on a new term, please let me know. It'd be great for our copywriting. But that's our message is, when you do this, you actually make room for other people to do their own thing. And so I'm so like dazzled by your journey this year. And I want to talk now about what is hard, what is challenging, how long do we have?
All of it. No. Oh man.
Tell me what's hard and tell me how you've transcended it. Like, what are you willing to share that's been like the hardest thing? And then how did you transcend it? How did you get past it?
Well, I definitely said out to the universe, and be careful what you write down, you guys.
That's true.
Be careful what you say out loud. Be careful what you write down. I think my soul already knew that it was looking for something bigger for a long time. I always knew I was supposed to be doing something a lot bigger than what I was doing, and I'd heard that. It's just funny. I'll have to tell this person later, but I'd heard that so many times in the past. And specifically from one of my friends who's like, you should have been a journalist. You should have been a blah, blah, blah. Like, you should be on television, like all this stuff. And I'm like, what are you talking? Like, what are you talking about? You know? And it's funny because podcasts are essentially, you know, a journalistic audio, whatever you want it to be, a journal or a documentary or a telenovela. It's everything, you know, so it gives you that opportunity to just be creative and, you know, share stories and animate them or not, however you want, right? And people connect to them. And so I think I owe that person a call. But long story short, what's hard when you become an entrepreneur? What is hard? Everything is hard. Everything.
It's not hard.
It's not that it's hard. It's that because you are the person. So I look at it like, well, there's a stone in front of me and I have a wheelbarrow and I still haven't invented the wheel yet, right? So like I literally have to figure out what a circle is. And yeah, there are people before me who figured out how to transport stuff on the wheelbarrow, but there's no wheel, right? And so like that's really what it is, and I think that that's truly what is rewarding as well, is that like I'll have that wheel, you know, like I am chiseling away at this mountain and it's getting closer and easier. And some people bring, you know, tools to the table and they're like, here, this is a jackhammer. Let me show you how to use it. And it's like, wow, you didn't have to do that. And, you know, and it's people who want to see women succeed right now. So like any woman who's out there, todas mis Latinas mujeres que están escuchando, like right now is your time, truthfully. And I don't mean this in a very cheesy, like motivational, let's go, rah, rah. No, it really genuinely is our time. All the women that I've been able to connect to, one connects me to another person, two connects me to another person, because all of them want to see this thing succeed, whatever it may be. They want to see it be its best that it can be. And that's the beauty of when you are an entrepreneur. You always think that you need to have all these millions of dollars and whatever. You got to really start where you are. And even if you start with nothing and all you have is a pen and a piece of paper and you write down your dreams and your desires, you'd be surprised how quickly those things start to happen when you put yourself in motion. And yeah, everything is challenge. It's not that it's hard, it's a challenge, but I love challenges. That's how I work best in my life. If I don't challenge myself, I get bored really easy. And the thing's gonna be left behind. And that's just how my whole entire life has always been. And it's like, it's a blessing and a curse because, you know, for some people, coasting and being comfortable is fine. And that's a great way to live life too, right? In that comfort zone. For me, I know when I get too comfortable, I'm not comfortable. Like I know that there's more than I can be aspiring to. And I think that also has a lot to do with the migration mindset, right? Like our parents weren't comfortable being at home. They felt as though there was something better. And again, it's a blessing and a curse, because at what point do you ever feel like it's enough? And not enoughness is in like, I'm not enough, but is this thing that I continue working on, that like, you know, mining at the stone, is that wheel ever going to be perfect, right? And it's not. And that's the beauty of it too, is like knowing that nobody's perfect. Even Apple, you guys, I was using this analogy the other day and I was like, man, that's a good one. Apple creates ideas that people buy into and then they go manufacture it. Apple, like if they would have had their model right from the beginning, all we would have had from them was computers, but we don't. We have computers, we have laptops, we have iPhones, Apple TV, we have iPads, watches, earbuds, everything under the sun, because their concept doesn't stop. It just keeps evolving. And once you buy into the brand, you will buy anything that they put out there. So like, it's all starting where you are.
There's updates. Like they're always making it better. There's always like a way to make it better, right?
Yep. But you have to be willing to start where you are. Hello? 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 Oh no.
All right, I'm back.
Perfect.
I'm like hardwired and Ethernet. So thanks, StreamYard. Anyway, no, what I was saying was Apple has updates, like everything, you know, like plug your phone into the wall, make sure you're on Wi-Fi because we're going to make this better in 24 hours. Like it's okay to start with an idea. It's okay to start with a podcast that's for everybody. and then learn that you need to niche. It's okay to have a big idea to get a community together because you see something's missing, and then turn it into something else. Like, actually, that's how this stuff works. It's not like you have the big idea and then you go sit out and do it and become a millionaire. And I wish that more people, and that's why in the Eñye Dream Accelerator, it's if you were curious about my life and Project Eñye, I literally open the hood. I have such a big problem with people presenting themselves like everything is perfect. It's fucking awesome. Excuse my French. It pisses me off so much. And it's like that effing filtered, everything is awesome. It was so easy for me. Let me show you how much money is in the bank. Let me show you like how easy it was for me, because that's BS. And I need to look under the hood. I want to know where it was hard. I want to know what you did, and I want to know how you transcended it. And I'm so excited that everyone's saying in 2021, people are going to start talking about being more authentic. I'm like, thank goodness, because it's time that people know that, yeah, the road is bumpy, but there is no other road I'd want to travel. And I'm not sure what the alternative is. I had a conversation with my husband this morning, the gringo cowboy, and I'm like, what's the alternative? Like, doing nothing, having an idea and never doing anything with it, living a life of regrets, living a life of what if, believing the lie that there's not enough time and that I'm not good enough. Not acceptable to me. That's just not acceptable. I take hard and challenging any day over the alternative, which is giving up and still having a heartbeat. To me, that's no way to live, right? And so back to the power of writing things down. I know you wrote something down, and I'd like you to share it with everybody. And there's two things I want you to share, because I know at one point we were talking over Zoom, and you showed me your mirror, and it had my name on it. And I want you to tell that story and then tell the other story, because both stories I think are fascinating.
So I have a habit that I do every morning. I get up. So I want to say, like, let me be honest, I'm about 75% every week. It's not every day. Some days I have more energy than others because I do plow through a lot of things.
Yeah, me too.
I work pretty hard. But I finally have kind of given myself a little bit of a slack. But anyway, I write all these things down, and gratitude's always writing about what I'm grateful for. And sometimes days are harder than others to find the things that you're grateful for. So my personal suggestion is to always have something, the same place that you sit down every day, make sure that it's a pretty space. So even if the only thing that you can see is a flower that's finally budding, or, the little rock garden, or whatever like mentally stimulate, at least you always know that there's going to be something in that space that you can be grateful for. Because once you're grateful for the little things, the big things literally come a lot easier, because you're just more, I don't know, your energy's different, right? And I'm not saying every day I wake up and I'm just like, oh my God, everything's perfect. I don't. That's why I have to put my little flower down and like write it down. But what's great, so I do write. I also write on my walls, and like right now, if you were to see the model that I'm changing, like the network to for next year, it's going to be so much better. But like my whole wall is a hot mess. It's like my neighbor came in earlier and she's like, "What is that?" And I said, "It's my mind map. Don't worry about it. It makes sense." But I had written before Denise and I started getting closer, I think, and working more together. I had actually written her name down as like one of the names of the people that I would be working with in 2020. And I forgot it. We were on the call, and it was when we were organizing our spaces.
Oh my God, that's right. Yeah. Yep.
And I was like, oh shoot, like I got to show you something. And it was like, I'm pretty sure probably the weirdest thing in life.
No, I thought it was awesome, because I did the same stuff. I thought it was freaking amazing.
So I had her name written on my mirror in my bedroom, which I finally had to stop doing in my bedroom because I needed to realize like there has to be a space of rest. But I had written her name on the mirror in my bedroom, along with the other podcasters that I've actually connected with and built really strong relationships with. So it's really interesting because I literally manifested everything that I was writing, even though I didn't know exactly what it was going to look like. I manifested all of the relationships and was able to really create strong bonds with everybody. The other thing that you're talking about, which is even more crazy. So in one of the modules, or one of the things that we do in Eñye Dream Accelerator, is that you write down, what you want your life to look like. And I wrote down that by 2020, I wasn't going to be working anymore for my other company. I was going to be solely focused on Latina podcasters. Well, as luck would have it, the universe lets me know that, hey, get your gear going because you're about to get fired. And I did. I got fired 2 weeks before December 2020. And you know what? I don't regret it. Am I afraid? Hell yeah, because we're in a pandemic still, and like life is shifting gears. But what is interesting is I see the power of the medium that I've chosen, the industry that I've chosen. Next year, the focus is going to be on BIPOC women in podcasting, feminine voices, niche niche networks or niche communities. And that to me is like, wow, even if our numbers are small right now, it doesn't matter. Like the opportunity is there and it's coming. And we've set ourselves up so well this year that next year it's just going to be on. And I've already started connecting with people for Q1. So there's only great opportunities coming. And, for all of us, again, this year has been an absolute shit show. Oh, sorry. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that, but
I just said the F-bomb, so
okay, cool.
bets are off.
Yeah. And it's like, and it's not even because things aren't working out, because they are, we are all, and I want everybody to really just give yourselves a minute to be like, you know what? It's okay to be emotional. It's okay to have these feelings. It's okay if you're a parent and you're on these Zoom calls and your kids are driving you nuts because you're having to be a teacher and a cafeteria worker and also do your job and acknowledge that. It's okay to feel those emotions. It's okay to be stressed out about whatever. I mean, there's a lot of life of uncertainty that we're all living in. But I think that there's a beauty in that that's giving us man, what's coming next year is going to be so amazing. And, just hang in there. And if you have an idea, write it down and join the Eñye Dream Accelerator.
Yeah. And also too, the thing is with what you wrote down, it's really about getting clear. Like a lot of times people are like, well, that's too woo-woo for me, or that's whatever. And it's like, when you get crystal clear, then it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense. And then you'll start acting in ways to kind of to pick the fruit that you wrote on your mirror, or that you wrote in that notebook in your place. That's beautiful, right? Like you get crystal clear. We get so many messages. Like I forgot how many messages we get in a day. We have to tell our subconscious mind what to look for, and that is really what was happening. Now, what happened at your job, I think, is fascinating, and also I want to respect that. The terrifying part, I mean, it definitely wasn't fun for me. At the time when we got our car repoed with, my husband, we only could laugh because it wasn't a beater. It was a Mercedes. I worked hard and I had earned that freaking car. And I'm like, wait, what? I thought when you choose to do your thing, the gifts are just pouring through the door and the money is just racking up at the bank account. It's not like it's not like the story of the third time the repo man came to get our car. That's not how it's supposed to work, right? And so when it was happening, I felt so small and I felt like a failure, and I felt like this has to be a secret kept out of, this is something that I could never share. There's so much shame here because all the self-doubt that I felt, I felt like it was coming true. Singing was right. I'm a failure. And now my car's being repoed and now my life sucks, right? Except for the fact that was not true. And that whatever that time was where I experienced my own shame and my own embarrassment, that was a really important time for me to realize I am not my car. I am not, in your case, I am not my job. I am not what's the amount of money that's in my wallet or in my paycheck. And that's a really important lesson to learn as you go and as you venture off, trying to create something really aspirational, because Rita's going to be in a meeting in 2021, and she's going to have to source the strength that she is building now. you will reap the reward of the questions that you're asking yourself, right? It's like an emotional gym. No, I am good enough. And good for you for making sure, like, here we are, right? You box yourself in with this interview with me. And so, yeah, did you have a poop morning? A poop sandwich morning? Yeah. Guess who also had a poop sandwich morning? Right? God, do I wish my hair looked better for this? But I was feeling the poop sandwich. Guess what? Doesn't matter. Still got to show up. And I feel good talking to you, and you feel the same. And so the lows, it's like we can just feel like we can indulge the lows. And I sometimes believe you should take 10 minutes, take 30 minutes, take an hour, and also realize you are better than all of it, and you are so much bigger than whatever certainty, I'm going to put that in quotes, and the sure thing paycheck. And there's so much money and resources just waiting to come into your bank account. And I'm not saying that from a naive place, and I'm not saying that from a woo-woo place. I'm saying that from, this is my personal experience place. When you trust and believe and give all your faith over to that thing, you are provided for. And oftentimes in spades, to bring yourself to your knees kind of provided for. Okay, so I want you to hear that, Rita. And I also want everyone listening to hear that, that regardless of what happens, you will be provided for.
Mm-hmm.
And there you go. And that's that. So Irene Mendoza says, oh man, this season gives me anxiety to know that I am good enough. Yes. And that has never changed. There's a gal in our group in the EDA. She's a publicist, and she's writing an article, and she asked me to weigh in on worthiness. And I shared, like, worthiness just is like there. And I think culturally we feel like, and I believe it's outside the culture too, but it's very much alive and well in our culture. Like, be a good girl, like, be good, and then you'll earn whatever. My love, conditional love, right? Rooted in Catholicism, totally left turn subject, but it is. And there's
colonialism, yeah.
There's something there about feeling like we have to earn something in order to receive, or earn something in order to be good enough, or the idea that is an earnable thing. And it isn't. It simply isn't. We are worthy because we are, and we are enough because we are. And so the choices that we make in our life, I know there's cause and effect and all that stuff, but worthiness isn't earnable, okay? So Rita, you just keep doing your thing, and you keep writing. That's the thing. You keep writing your stuff on the mirrors outside the bedroom, right? And on your wall of mind mapping, and because you're the only one that needs to understand it. And you keep writing, and trust me, those things are on their way to you. Rumi has one of my favorite quotes. It's like, what you want also wants you back, something like that. Mm-hmm. And I believe that 100%. So Edana also says, regardless of what happens, we will be provided for. Honestly, there isn't enough time in a single day for me to tell you how that is true, only for me personally, let alone the people that I follow. I mean, just insanity. That is just insanity. There's nobody that could convince me of anything different. So Rita, tell everybody why should they dive in? Why should they prioritize themselves and do something like this?
I think one of the things I always tell people, and this is the same, I think it kind of translates to people who are podcasters, or just in general, any idea that you might have. I think you're doing yourself a disservice, and you're being selfish to yourself if you don't give it yourself an opportunity to take a chance on yourself. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of selves in there, but that's because, when you're on an airplane, even when you have children, right? They tell you have to put your mask on first, because if not, you can't help anybody else. And as much as that sounds very selfish, it's very true. Like, I mean, if you go without oxygen, you can't even, your mind's going everywhere. There's, you're not centralized. You can't just physically fathom how you can help anything else. And it's basically putting your mask on first. You deserve everything in this world that you want, and your desires don't need to be put aside. You're not going to be a bad mother. You're not going to be a bad spouse. You're not going to be a bad daughter. All you're doing is the same thing that those people are doing too. And it's putting attention into the person that's most important. It's the one that's looking back at you. And when you start to do that, you create these really strong, beautiful boundaries that at the same time are reflective onto other people, and they pick up the same good habits.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times, especially culturally, we believe that when the woman then has boundaries, that's the end. Like she's a, the B word or whatever. And she's just, she's hard to deal with or whatever. And it's like, no, she's not hard to deal with. She knows her self-worth, and she knows that her dreams and her desires are just as important as everybody else's. And if she fulfills her dreams and her desires, everyone else around her gets uplifted as well. So for me, that's really what's most important. It's, making sure that that no matter what, the sacrifice for yourself is just as important as the one that you put forth for everybody else.
Yeah. And oddly, and this is like one of the coolest things about EDA is that everybody in there, everything they're doing is benefiting other people. Have you noticed that? Like everything is benefiting. Like there isn't a single project in EDA that doesn't benefit more than one single person. So anyway, I could talk about this forever. I could talk to you forever. I love this conversation, and I want to invite everybody here to take a look at EDA. Take a look. Give yourself the chance to indulge yourself, indulge your dream. There's a 30-day money-back guarantee with EDA. You can jump in, you can go on all the calls, you can watch the modules, and you can change your mind. And I dare you to do that and see if you'd want to, because there's so much love. It's like a family waiting to give you a hug. And honestly, if it wasn't for you and you tried it, that also would be totally fine with me. So this is your official invitation. I hope that you'll take us up on it, and we're going to provide the link for you to check it out. So Rita, thank you so much. Here's to cheer. It's too early to drink champagne, but I'm lifting up a champagne glass to you right now and say cheers to an awesome rest of the day. I appreciate you. I love and adore you and support you 100%.
Thanks so much, Denise.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.